If you've been struggling getting back into squatting, this program is going to be for you. Squatting is literally probably the most functional movement that you can do, and it's still one of the most commonly avoided exercises with people with knee pain. But think about it this way. How do you get on and off a chair? You squat, right? How do you get on and off of a toilet? You squat. How do you get in and out of a car? You squat. How do you get in and out of bed? You squat. How do you get down into a lower cupboard? You squat. Everything that we do is squatting. And if you avoid it, it's only going to be harder and more painful. So it's important that you learn how to properly squat, how to load your knees properly to be able to squat without knee pain. And you'd be amazed how you're probably going to be able to do it now, because now you actually know how to do it, but also your knees are going to be prepared for it. So let me go over the squatting technique and what it looks like, because it actually is different slightly from person to person depending on your anatomy. These are just different mechanics of squatting. It's going to be different for everyone. However, there's some forms that are better than others for different body types. Now, what I would say is I typically see a lot of B. So a lot of people, when they go to squat or, squat down to grab something, they allow their knees to go really far over their toes. It's not bad for your knees to go over your toes. A lot of people think that when you squat, you can't let your knees over your toes. It's very functional. Your knees should slightly go over your toes. It's just the way that our bodies are made. It's meant to happen. However, I see a lot of people do B in exaggeration, where they end up going on their toes because their heels come off of the ground, and then they're putting all of their weight on the front of their knees, and nothing is being utilized on the backside. So their glutes, their hamstrings are not being used at all. And they're upright typically pretty far, or they're really far forward down, but they're again up onto their toes, and all the force is going to the front of the knee. So typically not super great for a lot of people. When I have patients with knee pain, I'm going to teach them how to utilize their backside and their glutes when you squat. So looking at A, we have a person that's a little bit more forward leaning. The knee's not going as drastically over the toes like it was in B. This is typically a form with a person who has a longer femur. So the femur bone is right here. It's the longest bone in your body. It's your thigh bone. Some people have longer femurs than others. So if you have long legs and a shorter torso, this might be how you squat. You might need to be leaned forward a little bit more. You might hear people say, like, sit upright when you squat. Your chest has to be up. Sometimes that's not physically possible. This is my body type. So I have longer femurs compared to my torso. So I need to be a little bit more forward leaning when I squat compared to people who can be a lot more upright. So this last one, I'll show you. C is when people have a shorter femur, longer torso. So if your torso is longer than your legs, or longer than your femur, then this is most likely the way that you're going to be squatting comfortably. So chest is a little bit more upright. Very similar angle with the knee and the ankle as A. The only difference here is that trunk angle. So instead of being leaned forward, you can tolerate being a little bit higher up. But the key here is look at the glute, if you can imagine, glute activation with C and A compared to B. So let's look at what happens when you're squatting with potentially a weak glute. So with this angle, we can see the knee is caving inward, right? And that's actually most likely happening from the hip. When your knees cave in, it can be one side or both sides. This side we're looking at, or this picture we're looking at, both sides it's happening. As she's squatting or sitting back, her knees are collapsing in. That's going to cause a lot of pain on the inside of the knee, or even different structures, maybe even the outside of the knee. It's going to put unnecessary stress and strain on the knee joint itself. We want you to look like this picture. So we want you to get your glutes activated properly, external rotators, your feet working the way they should to keep your knee in line with your hip and your foot. Now, if we look at single leg, this might be you too, where you're squatting and only one knee caves in. That also is really common. That's typically on the weaker, more painful side. Sometimes it's on the opposite side though. You're going to be focusing on that side to really gain strength in the glute on that side that's collapsing. So if you find when you're squatting that only one side collapses, that's the side that you're going to want to focus on to regain glute strength. If you find that's happening on both sides, we're going to work on both sides. But in this program, we are going to be focusing on getting you back into squatting properly so that you can get out of pain, because the main problem is it's not the squat itself. It is you're probably not doing it right, and your body's not prepared for what you're asking it to do. So we're going to get you prepared, get your body ready for squatting, because it is the most functional movement that you can possibly do, and you need to stop avoiding squatting right now.